just avoids contact with the outside retaining wall. And the luck of the Irish has to belong to Dick Trickle. Gant does one more encore, and Greg Sachs completes the zany afternoon at Bristol. When the smoke cleared, a hint of normalcy restored, it was Rusty Wallace, 0.2 of a second ahead of Darrell Waltrip at the finish. Wallace was up to second in the Winston Cup point standings, and Waltrip back in 6th, less than 95 points off the leaders' total. There was a $1 million prize at the end of this 1989 Winston Cup Rainbow, and the superstars knew it as they worked their way through North Wilkesboro and Martinsville on their way to the Winston 500 in Alabama. The early May event at Talladega marked the long-anticipated debut of the all-new Chevrolet Lumina, a sleek sedan engineered with an aerodynamic soundness the designers at General Motors expected would deliver winning results. Pole sitter Mark Martin and young Davey Allison in the outside front row starting spot lead the snarling group of 41 win-hungry contestants. Down the backstretch, Neil Bonnet slides under Mark Martin to take over the lead, but Davey Allison holds his ground. Four Fords fill out the top 4 positions as the field heads back to the stripe. Winston Cup racing over the sprawling Talladega Superspeedway can best be described as awesome, or perhaps totally awesome. The action is a dazzling free-for-all scramble over the mammoth high-bank tri-oval monster. This is racing Talladega style. Any speed under 190 plus, you're out of contention. So most of the qualifiers zip around at breathtaking speeds, side by side, lap after lap, dicing in and out of lanes, looking for any hint that might turn into a slight advantage. Lose the draft, and the field will move by like you're parked. Young Dale Jarrett loses control, spins out in turn 4. The pressure's on. Rusty Wallace has an excellent pit stop, leads the parade at the restart, but there's a hungry pack nipping at his heels. Tricky turn 4 turns out to be the trouble spot on this afternoon. There's a multi-car incident to accentuate that distinction. Morgan Shepherd makes a strong move to gain control of his wide-track Pontiac, but young Davey Allison, heir apparent to the Alabama gang throne, simply will not be denied. The Budweiser Ford of Terry Labonte slips in behind Allison's draft to take over second. Down the tri-oval, it's a Ford parade. Allison, Labonte, Martin in a 3-car rush to the finish. Car owner Robert Yates celebrates the first win of the year for the Haviland Thunderbird and Davey Allison. A jubilant Davey pockets $98,675 for his afternoon's effort. But even after winning, Allison treats this as one more lesson in Winston Cup racing.
I think if you ever quit learning, then you're going to level off and start on a downward trend. We want to continue our uphill trend right now. We're still learning, and I hope I never stop learning.
The beard, obviously you have a little bit of worry that you're too baby-faced and people call you a little boy, so the beard is to try to give you a macho look that you think you deserve as a race driver. Isn't that true? Well,
a lady at the restaurant that we eat at home a lot walked up and told me that I look 10 years older, so I said, oh, so I look 25 now instead of 15, right?
1/3 of the season is over. It's Dale Earnhardt on top in the Winston Cup standings as the Tour heads for the Winston All-Star Clash and the classic Coca-Cola World 600 at Charlotte, North Carolina. Following Talladega, the month of May belongs to Charlotte and its resplendent Charlotte Motor Speedway. First up, the Winston, NASCAR's version of the All-Star game. In 1989, a segmented three-stage race that pitted winners against winners, where the very least the ultimate victor walks away with is $200,000. That's serious money for a short, high-speed ride.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Terry Labonte, number 11, Dale Earnhardt, number 3, share the front row when the call goes down. The first segment's off and running. 75 laps around this popular mile-and-a-half oval. In turn 4, there's an unusual family affair. Spinning out of control, it's number 43, Richard Petty, and son Kyle, number 42. Rusty Wallace, with 3 wins this season, easily takes the first segment. But this race calls for a double dose of strategy. Few drivers can top Darrell Waltrip when it comes to making strategic decisions.
We need to win a segment now and start on the pole in the 10-lapper and see which one of us is going to win.
After a 10-minute breather, the crucial second segment, 50 laps, is underway with Wallace on the point. But in the back straightaway, Waltrip unleashes the Tide machine to nose ahead of Wallace. Waltrip's Tide crew, directed by Jeff Hammond, has made the proper adjustment in that first break. Alan Kowicki, number 7, Dale Earnhardt, number 3, and awesome Bill Elliott, number 9, fighting it out. A confident Waltrip captures phase 2, but he knows the day is far from over. Rusty Wallace, after struggling in the second segment, is ready for the final 10-lap shootout.
We accidentally got the right front tire on the right rear that last pit stop, and it threw the stagger off, and I was real loose. He's tough, there's no doubt about it. It's just going to be a dogfight to the very end. I'm going to have to run 10 perfect laps and hopefully get up alongside him on the restart.
What is the strategy for 10 laps, what they're doing now?
There is absolutely none. It's just pedal to the metal and see what happens.
It's the old classic confrontation between Waltrip's Tide Chevrolet, Wallace, and the Kodiak Pontiac. The 3-time national champion is on the point. Wallace, number 27, is reeling him in. It's Waltrip on the high side and Wallace underneath. Through 3 and 4, the two come together, sending Waltrip into a wild slide. We'll be talking about this one for years. You be the judge. Did Wallace spin his opponent out? Did Waltrip cut the young Charger off? Or was it just a racing incident? It's a question race fans will debate for years to come. Wallace went on to win it with Ken Schrader second, and Waltrip ultimately finished in the 7th position. Wallace was $240,000 richer following that controversial finish. The Winston had now set the stage for the Coca-Cola 600, longest of the season. And judging by the reaction of the fans, Rusty Wallace wasn't exactly the favorite, to the delight of one Bodine and one Earnhardt.
Ain't it good to hear them boo somebody besides me and you?
I know, we've been able to talk about fishing this week and smiling at each other.
Rusty's got all our fans, hasn't he?
He sure has.
The world of Major League stock car racing always waits anxiously for the annual 600-miler at Charlotte. It's a long haul. It's a race that can make or break a championship run. The green flag falls, and Busch Pole winner Alan Kowicki is off and running again, with outside front row starter Mark Martin, number 6, in hot pursuit. All of a sudden, Richard Petty slows but it's a minor problem. He'll be back. Jerry O'Neill spins the number 53 Chevrolet. Dale Jarrett loses control of the Harding's Pontiac. Tracy Leslie has a problem in the Gilmore Foyt machine, while Kyle Petty spins through the grass at the front chute. Rick Wilson's been running strong in the Kodak Oils, but a cut tire sends him hard into the retaining wall. The yellow flag waves, and Terry Labonte tries a new approach on pit road as Harry Gant parks his machine for the day. Winston Cup point leader Dale Earnhardt having trouble with his Chevrolet. The 600-mile grind continues to take its toll. Australian Alan Grice, the surprise entrant, spins in 4. Richard Petty is out, upset stomach, and he turns the 43 Pontiac over to Jimmy Means. A strong race by Rusty Wallace fades to despair.
I think it broke a valve. I'm not for sure what it is. I think that's what the problem is.
Kowicki, after a dominating showing when he led the most laps, is gone, and his dejected crewmen know it instantly.
Everything was going just exactly according to plan. It looked like it was all going to come our way. And then the motor blew.
This is going to be Darrell Waltrip's day. He's on his way to his 5th triumph in the 600. No other driver has ever won more than twice. The Darrell Waltrip driver, Rick Hendrick owner marriage is finally beginning to pay dividends.
Well, the thing that made it neat was, you know, 87, all the things are going around. TIDE was tears in Darrell's eyes, and that I'd made a terrible mistake. And I think the good Lord, in all honesty, gave me the patience and the fortitude to hang in there and see this thing through and see this team a winner. So I feel like I've really been blessed, and I really am gratified by the success we've had.
Darrell Waltrip has snatched the Winston Cup lead away from Dale Earnhardt and moved into a spot to win the $1 million Winston Crown Jewel bonus. Earnhardt rebounded with an impressive win at Dover, Delaware, and the troops then moved to Sears Point International Raceway in California. NASCAR's driving stars made their first visit ever to this twisting, turning, 2.5-mile Sears Point circuit in June. The action was road racing at its best in the Banquet Foods 300. It was a good, clean start with pole sitter Rusty Wallace and determined Mark Martin leading the way at the green flag. The field stays tight and everybody is very cautious in the early going. These drivers are sailing in unknown waters. Mishaps have highlighted pre-race practice sessions, and nobody wanted to get careless when the real thing was underway. That careful approach marked the early portion of the race, but every driver suspected that conditions would change, and they were right in the latter portions of the event. John Krebs spins out of control of the 99 Pontiac. Dick Johnson follows suit in the 38 Ford. It's not long before Neil Bonnet loses control in his number 21 Citgo Ford. The pit road action takes on added dimensions. It's more intense than ever. The crewmen know they can spell the difference in today's race for sure because there are usually very few caution flags in road races. The quarters on pit road are close. The pressure's tremendous right here. Ricky Rudd's closest call of the day happens as he clips Jeff Bodine exiting the pits. At the finish, it's Rudd to the flag just ahead of Wallace, and the Quaker State Buick makes its first trip of the season to victory lane. Rudd shared his thoughts on the quest for the Winston Cup.
See, it can always be better. You know, obviously I wished I had a couple of championships under my belt at this point, but, you know, fate's going to happen as it is, and all I can do is keep plugging hard as I can do and drive as hard as I can, and I feel like today is going to come. As far as when, I don't have an answer for that, but it takes a whole group effort. You know, a driver's not going to carry the team by himself, and a team can't carry a weak driver. It's all got to work together in harmony. And until you get that kind of harmony, you're not going to win championships. And when that whole unit's going to come together, I hope next year. We'll have to wait and see.
The Winston Cup standings, Earnhardt leads Waltrip and Rusty Wallace as the season winds its way to midpoint. It is the dedicated men in the pits who are playing the major role in this year's Winston Cup chase. Call a Winston pit stop what it actually is: controlled chaos. With ballet precision, they swing into action amid the sound, the fury of thundering high-speed missiles. Perfect timing here is a must. Every man knows exactly when and how to anticipate his teammates' moves. Danger? You bet. On an overcrowded pit lane filled with snarling race cars eager to return to battle, anything can happen. They face their task with incredible determination. For a few brief moments, they don't hear the roar of the crowd nor the screams of the powerful engines. In 25 seconds or less, it's over. Their battle standards rush back to the front, and they go behind the wall to prepare for the next furious onslaught. These men make the difference between a joyous celebration in Victory Lane or a quiet ride back home. The pressure of a 29-race, 10-month schedule can take its toll, but drivers like Michael Waltrip, Kyle Petty don't seem to have much problem dealing with the stress.
Go. You got something on your lip there. I got him. I got him straight now. A what?
I haven't talked about the season for real, both of them.
Okay, about the season for real. Oh, come here. You got to talk about it. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, on this stage for the very first time, the incredible Michael Waltrip, driver of the Post Series Country Time All-Pro Auto Parts Pontiac Special. Right here, he's going to tell us about his season.
Well, I'm real encouraged with our season. We've got a good team. We've built a lot of new race cars and developed some new stuff in our engine department. All that takes a little bit of time to develop, as you well know, but I think we've come a long way, such as I think your team has. And I feel like that for the 1990 season, that Neil and Bob here are going to be two of the toughest guys out there.
Neil and Bob, that's really not our names, that's just what we do. But anyhow, our season's been a pretty good season so far. We've had a bunch of wrecks. I've tore up 8 or 10 race cars, and we've run better this last part of the season, I will say. And what do you think about your chances in this race down here?
I tell you what, it's encouraging, our chances, I think.
Did you make this race down here?
We're not sure yet. That's why if we make the race, we're going to be encouraged about our chances.
Terry Labonte in the Budweiser Ford and Bill Elliott in the Coors machine each notched a pair of wins, and Davey Allison collected his second trophy of the year by the time the schedule flipped to the mid-August road race at Watkins Glen, New York. They call it the Glen, but it's really a quaint little village in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. The Winston Cup travelers have crisscrossed the nation in a trek from California's wine country to vineyards in the Northeast. The settings are totally different, but then again, remarkably similar. The neighbors around Watkins Glen, however, know a great deal about dueling cars with numbers on their sides. The Glen has been the site of many a famous race for years. Morgan Shepherd in the number 75 Raymont Pontiac is the fastest qualifier. He leads the 40-car field across the start line. The heat's on. The battles are in every unpredictable turn. This is a challenging road course, not one of those left-turn-only southern ovals where most of these drivers hone their racing skills, slipping off the track, an accepted maneuver. Rusty Wallace holds off a persistent Mark Martin to the checkered flag in a tussle that saw 18 starters finish in the lead lap. Wallace had little trouble taming the Glen, but he had a tough time spraying the champagne in Victory Lane. The high-spirited Missouri athlete was closing in on Winston Cup point leader Dale Earnhardt. The Tour ready to move on to Michigan International Speedway and the champion Sparkplug 400. Michigan International's about an hour's drive to the west of Detroit. It's a 2-mile oval, and every driver loves it. Its sweeping turns, its wide straightaways play to a perfect blend of men and horsepower. 3-time national titleist Dale Earnhardt, the points leader going into this 400-miler, talks about the stretch run for the championship.
Well, it's the consistency of the year that wears down the people, you know, and if you can be consistent all year long, you're going to be in those top 3 or 4 that's running for it. This year we got 5 guys here that could win the championship from this point, and it looks like it's going to run on down to the last several races and see who's the winner. So, you know, it's going to be exciting to see what happens along about August, October, and see where everybody's at. Hopefully we'll still be out front, gaining just a few more points each race.
Rusty Wallace might as well have been singing that tune, "When You're Hot, You're Hot," on this afternoon, because as scorching as the month of August can be, he was even hotter in the number 27 putting. He immediately takes command from outside the front row. The tight packs, the nose-to-tail drafting, it's commonplace at MIS, and once again it becomes the norm. But these guys, whether they know it or not, are now fighting for second place. Rick Jeffrey spins out in the number 18 Pontiac. Sterling Marlin slides out of control in his number 94 Sunoco Olds. Pit road is packed solid, and the crewmen swing into action.